Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today is actually the first time I do a YouTube video with the webcam on. Some probably already have seen me on Twitch, where I was streaming with my webcam. Now, let's get to it. So this video is about the destruction, staff passive, ancient knowledge. There seems to be a lot of confusion on how this exactly works. So you see, gain bonus effects based on your staff type, while you have a destruction staff ability slotted. Flame Staff increases your damage done with single target abilities by 8%, and Lightning Staff increases your damage done with AoE abilities by 8%. Frost Staff does some shit. Now, first thing you need to know, you need to have a Destruction Staff ability slotted, like it's said there. So either you, for example, have the ulti or some skill here. Get it to work, because if you don't have something here, it will not give you the extra damage. Now, like I said, fire 8%, lightning 8%, and the main question actually that is going around, for example, on some of my build videos, why do I have blockade of fire on the back bar? Why do I not use blockade of shock to get the 8% extra AoE damage? That's the main issue here. We're going to test it in a second. First off, let me explain how this works. When we put the blockade of fire on the ground and we weapon swap, we will get the extra 8% AoE damage. Now here, obviously, fire stuff only increases the single target abilities. Blockade of fire is an AoE ability, so as long as I'm on the fire stuff bar, I will not get extra 8% damage. However, when I use this, the moment I weapon swap, I do get the 8% extra damage from the blockade of fire. Even though I casted it from this bar. Now, why is that? You need to understand how the game calculates your damage. For example, blockade of fire, as you can see, it ticks every 1 second. So every 1 second, the game re-evaluates, like it double checks again, how much spell damage do you have, how much magicka do you have, which destruction stuff type do you have, all those kind of things get new calculated. That's why you can do it like this, like me here. Because in the best scenario, you want to use blockade of fire because it does 20% more damage, and you have a magicka DK in your group, gives you another 10%. And on top of the 8% from the shock stuff, if you have a shock stuff on your front bar. Now, given like on some classes, kind of depends what setup you want to use. For example, on a magicka Sorc, you have a lightning stuff front bar, a fire stuff back bar. On a DK, you sometimes have 2 fire stuffs because they just have so much single target abilities. You just need to wonder where most of your damage comes from. Is it from AoE abilities, or is it single target? For example, like on my Beamplar build, the Magicka Templar, I use dual wield on the front bar to benefit from Moondancer if you have it. It's just like, it's kind of the only class that doesn't fully utilize this ancient knowledge passive yet. To showcase this on a Magicka Sorc, because I think most people actually playing one now, so it's easier to relate to. You see on my Mystic build or Summoner build, I do have Liquid Lightning on the back bar along with Blockade of Fire. Now people are like, why do you use those here? Because you have those on your fire bar and not on your shock bar. So like I said before, I drop this and this weapon swap. And now those 2 skills get the 8% extra damage from this passive, because it gets re-evaluated. However the fuck you pronounce that. Now to just double check this, let's do a small test. Go to this dude here. Drop liquid, and you see it hits for 2.9k. I weapon swap. It hits for 3.122k. So you see there is a difference. Same with the blockade of fire. 2153 2327. So that's the 8% extra damage you get, although you casted it from your back bar. So that's what you really need to understand. That's why most of my builds are set up like this. Those two dots on the back bar, and then, like for example on this here, like force pulls and crystal frag on the front bar. Now again, remember, in the end, for each build, you need to know where most of your damage comes from. If you have most of your damage coming from, let's say, crystal frag or force pulls, then it might be better to use 2 fire staves and not the shock one. But like always, I do prefer to have at least 1 shock stuff on, like, equipped, because it is just so much safer, especially like in dungeons where, or trials where there are a lot of monsters, because you just can heavy attack. And shock stuff, heavy attacks, deal insanely stupid damage. Like, it's fucking broken. And it's just really safe. Like, you don't have to spam shields because you stand in the middle of all the trash mobs. You just can stand out here, reapply your dots, weapon swap, heavy attack. That's why you see a lot of people running a heavy stuff, be it on the front or the back bar. And depending where you use this type of stuff, you actually should allocate your skills differently, like I tried to explain before. Obviously, you also need to know which skill is AoE damage and which one is not. For example, let's test Boundless Storm, because actually I also don't know whether it is AoE or single target. It most likely is AoE damage because it hits several enemies. 933. 1k. Yeah, so this counts as AoE damage. Let's actually check the pet. Now I activate my skill on my fire stuff. $8.3k crit. On crit, dude. 9.6k crit. So it is also AoE damage. Pet here. That's kind of like, you also can do this on console, this kind of test, because you have the in-game damage meter, or however you want to call it. So it's really easy to actually test whether your skill is AoE damage or not, as long as you have like a shock and the fire stuff. Yeah, so that's basically it. I hope this helps a little bit on how to understand this passive, because it seems to be really confusing for people. Make sure to share the video with your friends if they also have the same question. I will probably also try to explain it on my website, but my school started again, so my time is very limited. If you do have any questions, ask me in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.